Hey everybody, David Nagel here. Come on in and check out this amazing lesson on the power of choice and how you can create your own life. Hey everybody, David Nagel. Welcome to the Successful Mind Podcast. Today I'm going to be using the whiteboard to do a few demonstrations, a few drawings to explain my teaching. So if you're listening to this, at some point in time, you might want to flip over to our YouTube channel and check out the visual on it. A link will be in the show notes below. So without any further ado, let's get to this. I want to talk a little bit about the idea of how we're programmed subconsciously that kind of leads us through our life in a way where we're consistently picking up information from our outside world. It's triggering the knowledge that we're carrying around within us from our subconscious mind, and it causes us to view the world the way that we actually view it. And here's the reason why. The idea is this: we will go through an entire lifetime, and if nobody ever suggests to us that what it is that we're seeing, what it is that we're experiencing may have another side to it, it may not dawn on us that that's actually true. And here's the reason for this. Every single subconscious mind is fixed with thoughts, images, ideas, habits, belief systems that is constantly telling our conscious mind how to think. So let's take a look at how this actually works. Here we have an image of the stick person that was created in 1934 by Dr. Thurman Fleet. Is basically a teaching tool for his students so that they could get the conceptual image in their mind of how the human mind, not the brain, but the mind actually worked with and through the physical body. We have senses. We see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. All outside information is coming to us through those senses. And here's what's important to understand about the senses. And I don't want to get too deep into this because it really would be for another podcast. The senses have limits. Like, we can only hear within a certain range, but there are sounds that are lower we can't hear. There are sounds that are higher. You can only feel within a certain range. If it's too hot, it burns the nerve endings off your hand. You can't feel anything. If it's too cold, it numbs it. Our eyesight's the same way. Our hearing is the same way, which means that there's information beyond what we can pull in through our senses. Our conscious mind has the ability to think, it has the ability to reason, and it has probably the most amazing ability, which is the ability to choose based on how we think, because that determines the quality of life that we actually create for ourselves. Every single thing in our life that we're creating by some kind of a choice, whether it's conscious or unconscious. The subconscious mind, however, does not have that faculty. It doesn't have the ability to choose. It doesn't have the ability to think. It must accept whatever is turned over to it and immediately begin to express it with and through the physical body. So it's a very interesting set of systems that we have working here that really kind of cause the way we have an experience in the world to show up in our mind and in our physical presence. As we go through our childhood, we don't have a conscious mind developed. About prior to the age of 7. It takes quite a while for this to begin to develop, and then it continues to develop right up into our early 20s. But without a conscious mind developed prior to age of 7, everything that's going on and around us is actually going right in. So it kind of looks like this. It kind of looks like a fishbowl. So the thoughts, the images, the ideas that are around us are going right in, and they become fixed in our mind. As these become fixed subconsciously, remember now, because we don't have the ability to reject them, it creates how we think. It creates how we think. Why? Well, this is a tremendous amount of information, including the experiences that we're having with this information, and it's creating this idea of how we think. We have information that is then kind of uploaded like a computer into our conscious mind whenever we experience something external of ourselves. We have our results, we have circumstances, we have our environment. Our environment is made up of people, places, and things. And we observe this. And as we observe it, that information is coming back through our senses into our conscious mind, and it forms an image. We actually think in pictures. So when we have this image in our mind, the image is just an image. What is it that tells us how to perceive this image, how to think about this image, what to do with this image? It's the information that's stored in the subconscious mind that tells the conscious mind how to think about the image that we're actually experiencing. So if we're not taking information from an outside source, we're kind of put into a straitjacket as far as how we think about something, because this is the only information that we have to pull from. Now, the idea is this: how are we experiencing our life? As we go through our life every single day, we have all kinds of experiences. You have your own personal experiences, you have your family, you have the work that you do, maybe the business that you own, how you interact socially. We have the tremendous amount of information that comes from all the different sources of media, and that information is being filtered into our consciousness. Now, we have something else that's important. We have the results that we're actually getting in our life. And as we experience the results that we're getting, you could take this as far back as when you were a child, actually. As we're experiencing those results, we really need to think to ourselves, is this something that I like or that I don't like? Is this how I want to live my life? Is this what I want to experience? Is the quality of what I'm experiencing really what I desire in my life or not? And when we do that, we're going to have information from our subconscious mind basically tell us a story about what we're experiencing. And it may be a story like, yeah, but there's nothing else that you can do about it. That's just the way that it is. You'd have to be somebody different to actually get a different result in your life. When we have that kind of an experience, if we listen to the story or the how that is coming from our subconscious mind to our conscious mind, we're really kind of locked into the ability of making a choice only with this information. And that's not actually a good thing. But as we become aware that that information is coming from all the people that we were raised around for a long period of time, and it's not just them, but generations of people, because this information is passed down from one generation to the next until it gets to the generation that's your parents. And then your parents pass down what they know into your subconscious mind. So the experience that you're having is basically based on the experience your parents were having in their lifetime. And they told you how to have this experience. If we have the ability to choose, I think the question really kind of comes to us as, can I change this? Can I actually make a change? Can I do something different with my life and the way that I'm experiencing it? Or am I only locked into the information that I have? If you do something like really spend some time observing other people. Now, when I say observing, you have to do something that's very critical when you do this. You have to move out of judgment. So if you just start to observe, and what's really great is that today we have the ability to do this on the internet because we can really observe people all over the world. When I was a child, it wasn't as much. Like it was through books, maybe a little bit of television, maybe through movies. But the idea is that we can observe the way other people live. And as we observe the way that they live, we can ask questions like, why do they think what they think? What's really going on in their mind? Where did their belief system come from? Where do their thoughts come from? Why are they thinking what they're thinking? If we stay out of judgment, which will generally just say, well, this person's right or this person's wrong, and then we'll go into our own pre-programmed story about why that is, all that allows us to do is to stay right in the moment. But the idea of what we really want is to really ask ourselves, is there other information? Are there other ideas? Are there other ways of doing things that might allow us to change the quality of our life? Now, I'm going to flip over, draw one more of these for you, and give you an idea about this amazing power that we actually have that's locked up within us. to my knowledge, to the knowledge of science and religion, I suppose, because those are the two places of authority that anyone goes to determine really where anything comes from. I mean, if you think about it, science, we have science on one hand, we have the various different religions in the world on another hand. They seem to be the pinnacle of authority, is where we get our facts based from, or what we assume to be facts anyway. The idea is this: all science and religion basically says this one simple thing. The human being is the only animal that we're aware of that has the ability of total conscious choice, at least to the way that we understand conscious choice. That means we have the ability to reason. We have a reasoning factor that is in our mind. It is part of our intellect, right? We have this really amazing intellect. And it does something fascinating. It gives us the ability to either come from ignorance or come from knowledge. Now, somebody once said to me, you can do anything that you want in this life, but in order to do that, you're going to have to learn how to think. And in order to learn how to think, you're going to have to give up the idea of holding on to everything that somebody else taught you and really think for yourself, which means you're going to have to study. Because all the information is here, but if we're going to get to it, we have to be willing to study. We have to be willing to dive into information that is out there, really think about the way other people thought, and make decisions for ourselves based on what we think is right or wrong in the world, based on what we think our purpose is here on earth, what our purpose is in this lifetime. The ability to switch back and forth between these two things is our power to choose. It's our power to choose. Now, I also have, as I said before, our results that are continually going on outside of us. As we look with our senses, as we observe with our senses, we see these results. That information is being fed back into our conscious mind, forms an image. If we don't question it, the subconscious mind tells the conscious mind how to think about that image, how to think about that result, how to think about the environment that we're in, how to think about what's going on in the world. But if we really want to move to a different result, if we say, you know something, I would really like to change the results that I'm experiencing in my life, we're going to have to move out of ignorance, we're going to have to get rid of ignorance, and we're going to have to move to knowledge. That is a choice that we make in our mind. Now, what I think is really fascinating is that many people, probably most people, that are walking around in the world do not really understand the power that they have to choose differently in their life. And they don't understand it because they see everything that's going on outside of themselves as something that they don't really have an intimate connection with. They don't see it as something that they've caused in their life. There's not any understanding of cause and effect in relation to how they're experiencing their world. And if there's no relation to how we're experiencing our world, we fall into the trap of thinking that everything that's going on around us is kind of like happening to us, right? It's maybe not directly to us, but it's happening in a way where we don't have any control over it. And of course, that would probably fit with whatever belief systems were passed down from one generation to another. You'd have to have really aware parents or grandparents or great-grandparents in order to pass down a different belief system where they said, hey, you can change the way you're experiencing the world by making different choices in your life and understanding how to link those up with the results that you have in your life. We have to really think here, because it's not by chance or luck that people design amazing lives. It's by choice that they design amazing lives. And many people have started from very lowly positions in life under all kinds of terrible circumstances and turn their life around to have it be absolutely amazing. So how did they do it? They did it by understanding on some level They may not be able to articulate it the way that I'm articulating it, but on some level they realized that they had a choice. And they realized that they could either follow negativity in their life here, or they could look for something that had more of a positive result or a positive outcome as far as what they wanted. Now, when they do this, when you're looking toward knowledge, what are you looking for? You're looking for different information. You're looking for information that kind of lines up with your own spiritual desire in the world. Human beings are fascinating creatures. If we look at nature itself, we see something that's actually pretty interesting. Nature always seems to know what to do. But nature doesn't go to school for 20 years like human beings do. It's not parented for 20 years. It's not constantly having somebody make corrections in their life or telling them when they're right or wrong. Nature has instinct. It operates by this universal instinct that is always having it move toward the idea of more life. Now, if I was you, I would write that idea down. More life is something that is a phenomenal guidepost, I think, in actually making decisions. It should be part of our value system. It should be part of our ethics, because when we're making decisions based on the idea of more life for ourselves and for others, we really get to see how our choice is affecting the quality of our life or the quality of other people's lives. But what really seems to be interesting about this is that everything in the universe seems to be moving toward the idea of more life. We also have to understand that life is cyclical. It's constantly moving from a non-form to a form and back to a non-form again. But we're talking about the perpetual transmutation of energy, which is one of the 7 universal laws that I've discussed a whole lot about on the podcast. The idea is that energy is neither created or destroyed, it just is, and it's constantly moving from a non-form into a form and then back to a non-form again. When we experience it in its form, we're experiencing life as we know it. We're experiencing our physical body. We experience the trees that bloom in the springtime and they're green and flowery all summer, and then in the fall they wither, and what we call die is actually just a transformation, but it's not actually death at all, because in the spring it comes back. All life seems to move according to this really interesting law, which means that our life can do the exact same thing. It can move according to this law. We can consistently bring in new ideas, and we can birth them within ourselves, outside of ourselves, and literally change our life. As we take in this knowledge, what we're doing is we're creating a new image of how we would like to see our life. The image is based on this idea, this desire. Now, what is it with this desire? Well, I thought it was fascinating when I was younger that all of nature life seems to have this direction to follow, but human beings didn't seem to have this internal direction to follow. I came to find out later on that that was absolutely not true. But what was true was that nobody was helping us follow that inner voice within when we were children, and we were constantly following the outer voices that were telling us what to do. So we never really got to know or understand that inner desire inside of ourselves that is telling us what direction to actually go in. So it takes time to get to know this side of ourselves. But here's the great thing. This inner voice that is a desire to make your life better is in every single one of us. I always say, where do you start with this? Think about what you desire in your secret thoughts. Those are the thoughts that you don't tell anybody about. It's the thoughts about being, doing, and having things that you may not currently have in your life. For some people, it's just the idea of being happy or providing more for their family or doing something that they actually love every single day. Whatever it is for you, and it can be a materialistic thing also, that's not bad. That inner voice is inside of you right now, and it's speaking to you. And if we will give it some attention, it will speak great desires and thoughts and dreams for our life up into our conscious mind. And as it does that, we can create that image of how we want our life to be. Now here's the problem. We have that image on our mind. You build that image up based on that idea. You have to make sure that subconsciously you're programmed with the idea that you can create that image in your life. If you're not, and here's an easy way to know that you're not programmed with that idea, is that you doubt that you could do it. Many people doubt that they can do things. That just requires a little bit more study into really looking at human potential. There is nobody on the planet that can tell you how much potential you have. You have infinite potential. You have all the potential that there is. And through the proper use of our intellect and the focusing on that potential of what we want, we can have this image sink deep into our subconscious mind, which is also our emotional mind. We can become very much enthusiastic about the idea of how we want to create our life. And then through the proper use of our choice, we can begin to set in motion the actions that will produce this desire as our result in life. Now, if you really think about this, and you may want to watch this many times over to really get this idea burned into your own subconscious mind, our ability to choose basically says we do not have to take all the information that we were given by other people and live that out as fact in our life. Let's say that you were born poor and you come to the realization that you're poor and you don't want to be poor. It does not mean that you have to live that way for the rest of your life. What you need to do is to use your ability to choose to start to put your mind on the path of thinking about prosperity and what goes along with prosperity and what are the thoughts and what is the education that you need to live a prosperous life. You can teach yourself those things. All of that information is readily available to just about everybody today via the internet. As we take that information in, as we study it, we will build new concepts and new ideas in our mind. And as we build those new concepts and ideas in our mind, we can become one with them because they will meld with the desire of your heart. See, a true desire always wants to be more, do more, and have more. It's never for less. It's never for death and disintegration. It's always for something more. It's for an amazing life. It's for a fabulous life for yourself and for other people. And all we have to do is to make the choice to not settle for what it is that we're currently experiencing in our life. Now, where can this get into trouble for us with the idea of not settling? If somebody gave us the idea that it's wrong to do that, right and wrong, those kinds of judgments, on one hand, can be very good for us because they keep us within a good moral standard or a good ethical standard in our life, and we do good things, but it can also create a tremendous trap for us if we think that any kind of prosperity, that any kind of money, that any kind of moving forward, any kind of achievement in our life is actually a wrong thing. If somebody told us that we were stupid and that we couldn't learn, those are debilitating subconscious beliefs that some people are walking around with. But if you hear this message, it may be the very first time that you're hearing that you could do something different. And if you let that stir in your imagination, it will grow into a beautiful curiosity for yourself, where if you study, you will be able to find out that you actually can. And then you can build the image, the knowledge, and the habits to create the life that you want. Make sure that you catch part 2 of this lesson that'll be coming up. Make it a great day. We just wrapped the first part of the conscious and the subconscious and your ability to choose. Make sure that you like us, tell your friends about it, subscribe, and we'll see you soon.